Welcome to another tying session. I'd like to show you a little nymph that I tie that I was introduced to by a very good guide friend of mine, Jeff Sharpe. He guides out of Knoxville in Tennessee for various species, smallmouth bass, brown trout, rainbow trout, all sorts of different species. And it's a very simple little fly that they use for trout. Very much like a tail and abdomen is very much like a pheasant tail nymph, and slightly different when it comes to the thorax. Actually, very simple fly to tie. Now he ties it on a jig hook like the grip 14037. I'm tying it on a grip 12004 size 16. I tie it in 14s as well, but I tie it on this nymph hook just because I'm not crazy about jig hooks. And now obviously when you tie it on the jig hook, you'd use a slotted tungsten bead, and I tie it on this hook with both tungsten beads and brass beads, depending on how and where I'm going to use it. And I started fishing, I quite like the fly, and I started fishing, tied a few, fished them for trout with good success, and then I decided to try them out for yellowfish here in South Africa, and must say I was quite impressed with the results. The fly is very simple. I tie a pheasant tail in with 6 strands. On the size 16 I use 6 strands of pheasant tail. On the size 14 I use 7, which makes it very easy to get the consistency throughout the range, or throughout the batch, right. Otherwise, sometimes you tie it with a little bit too much material or too little material, and then you get kind of an inconsistent batch. But with this, by using 6 pieces of pheasant tail, it's very easy. The flies are going to be right. Now for the abdomen, I use another 6, and for that I tie the tips of the pheasant tail in with a wider part to the back, simply because I want the abdomen to taper a little bit wider towards the front, towards the bead. And that helps, by tying it in that way, it just helps to taper it. It's the natural taper in the pheasant tail, so it helps to taper that abdomen a bit. And then copper wire, thin copper wire, which will be used to create a rib. And then what I do, I always leave a little bit of a space behind the bead, just to make sure you can tie the fly off. And I put a few wraps of thread, a few layers of thread, just to taper that abdomen a little bit more behind the bead. A little bit wider, and that should be enough. Not too much, just a little bit. Leave that there, and then you wrap the pheasant tail around the hook to create that abdomen. You can put that in a hackle plier as well if you want to. And you tie that off behind the bead. Just there. Make sure that is well secured, and then take the copper wire and you wrap it the other way around to cross over the pheasant tail wraps. Just like that, and you tie that off right there. Secure that with a few wraps. We'll cut that excess. Make sure you tie that tip in nicely there. And then for the thorax I use a fine super UV dubbing. I think the original was tied with brown, which is what I'm tying with now, but I've tied it with dark green fine super UV. I've tied it with a dark olive fine super UV, and those are all colors that work very well on this fly. I've even tied it with a light bright electric blue, which was also quite a successful color to use. So you tie that in, just wrap that thorax, very thin dubbing on the thread, and then wrap that thorax nice and tight to make sure you build it up nicely all the way against the bead, so that bead sits tight in that area there. Make sure the thread goes in behind the bead, and then you tie that off right there. Now I'll post all the materials. I'll post Jeff's contact details, and definitely a fly you can try for the yellowfish as a point fly, but also for trout in rivers, and try it out in different colors. And that's it. Please subscribe to the channel, please follow the channel, check out the other videos, and keep an eye out for more of these videos. Thanks for watching.